This is Abigail Nichols reporting live with breaking news from Madison News 1. The contamination crisis unraveled last Tuesday when hundreds of Madison citizens flooded the hospitals with flu-like symptoms. Victims of the contamination include 6 infants who are now in critical condition at UW's American Family Children's Hospital. Allegations peg Aquastar as the responsible party for the contamination of Madison, Wisconsin's once pristine groundwater. Aquastar is the first bottled water product from Star Global Beverages, a world-renowned Spanish company most well known for its private label sodas, juices, and wine coolers. Aquastar has been the saving grace of Spanish mogul Ana Maria Botella's floundering empire. However, today's breaking news story finds Aquastar in the middle of a dangerous water fiasco. The city of Madison swiftly responded to the mysterious epidemic by commissioning an investigatory committee to identify the source of the problem. Shockingly, the committee found the source of the illness to be well water, containing high levels of nitrate. To better explain the situation, we asked Madison One's resident science expert, Dr. Bill Brosnan. Dr. Brosnan, welcome.
Thank you, Abby.
Perhaps you can shed some light on this complicated situation. The public tap water of Madison, Wisconsin has been contaminated. Nitrate was found in the tap water, and as a result, over 300 reported patients have been admitted to local hospitals, with several in critical condition. Doctor, how exactly did this happen?
After interviewing some of the city water experts, it seems that there was no singular cause behind the contamination. It was likely a combination of factors, including some completely outside of anyone's control, such as the level of rainfall. But the one thing we do know is that the nitrate itself is from fertilizer commonly used by Madison area farmers.
Dr. Brosnan, if the nitrate is from fertilizer, how is it so unclear who is responsible?
Good question, Abby. Madison One has exclusive access to a report showing the negligence lawsuit the city of Madison filed against the farmers. However, after exclusive interviews with farmers, Madison One determined that the Farmers Association of Central Wisconsin is going to make a strong response. They argue Aquastar is to blame.
Doctor, how are we to determine who is accountable?
Well, the uncertainty lies in how the fertilizer came to be in wells throughout the county. You see, well water comes from aquifers, which are underground layers that yield usable groundwater. Aquastar actually pumps from the same aquifer that connects to nearly 50% of Madison's residents' wells. Once Aquastar pumps water from this aquifer, it is then filtered and purified before being bottled and sold.
So how is it possible that Aquastar could be at fault for the fertilizer contamination?
Well, according to analysts familiar with this industry, it appears Aquastar may have pumped faster than these wells could replenish. This created a starved well. As a result, this starved well pulled in outside water sources from all around the area. It even sucked in water from faraway farmlands. And when water from farmlands was pulled toward the starved well, surface contaminants such as fertilizer were not filtered out before reaching the groundwater. It was just the perfect storm.
Were Aquastar's actions illegal?
No, in fact, it was confirmed this morning that Aquastar was pumping within its legal limits. And as I said earlier, it is unclear who is responsible for the water contamination. But there were many factors that could have caused this incident.
Doctor, just to be clear, is there any problem with the water in Aquastar's bottles?
No, Aquastar's water is fine. They've added filtration. Only the tap water is affected. The city of Madison has advised all well water receiving residents to cease drinking tap water until further notice.
Thank you, Doctor. For those of you that have just joined us, Dr. Bill Brosnan just described that it is unclear who the culprit is behind the water contamination. Though what is clear is the darkening public mood towards Aquastar. The general public, farmers, and activists are left extremely distraught. To learn more, Madison One went to the streets of Madison earlier today to hear firsthand.
My son is at the hospital in critical condition. All I can say is, how could this happen? My husband and I have been living in Madison for almost 8 years. We've always drunk the tap water. I want to know who will be held responsible for this. It's not right. These companies want to make a buck off of Wisconsin, and who's to pay? My son?
But despite the contamination devastation, others are still unsure who's to blame.
What's happening is horrible, scary even, but I don't know who to believe or who to blame. Aquastar has done so much for our community over the past few years. Heck, both of my nephews have gotten jobs at the Aquastar factory, and I don't know how their families would have survived if they hadn't. I'd hate to believe that Aquastar is really behind all of this.
Aquastar has been deeply involved in Madison and other Wisconsin communities. Yet the company still has critics. such as Farmers Association of Central Wisconsin member Frank Lewis.
We've been complaining to the city for years, but nobody's listening. Does it really take a town full of sick people to hear us? It's a downright shame, and I pray for the families that are affected. These politicians and officials are so dazzled by corporate America's money that they forget about the Midwest's original industry, farming. 1 out of 4 jobs come from agriculture in this state. 1 out of 4. Our crops have lower yields, and our land has never been drier since Aquastar moved in. The only water our county needs is in its irrigation sprinklers, not those fancy pop-top plastic bottles.
For another perspective, standing by live is Ted Williamson, fisherman and spokesperson of Anglers of Mendota, an environmental conservation association dedicated to the ecological protection of Madison area lakes. Ted, what's your take on Aquastar and the crisis in Madison?
Now, believe me, I'm all for strengthening Wisconsin's economy, but at what cost? We need to look at the big picture. Here's a perfect example of the trade-offs we face with companies like Aquastar. Reports by Wisconsin's Department of Natural Resources and Environment show this area has some of the best brown trout water in the Great Lakes region, and probably even east of the Rockies. With Aquastar pumping so aggressively, our trout stream levels are getting lower and lower. They're in serious jeopardy. This region has attracted angler fishermen since the late 1800s. So, beyond this immediate crisis, this news could cause a big hit to Wisconsin's recreation and tourism industries. How are these companies really helping us in the end? We, as citizens, need to join together against the multinational companies encroaching upon Wisconsin's natural resources. This is our state, and the people's water. We have a say. In fact, my partners here at Anglers of Mendota are joining with other groups to form a coalition for water as a public good, and we intend to be an important player in this lawsuit.
The entire state is following this dramatic fiasco, realizing with horror that it could happen in any of our backyards. I'm Abigail Nichols. Stay tuned to Madison News 1 for exclusive coverage of this crisis.